Hi, this is Tara. Welcome to Sky Gazing. Today we're studying Sutra number 12 of the Sadhana Pada. Let's see what it says. kleśa-mūlaḥ karma ashayah drishta adrishta janma vedanyah. Klesha, afflictions, mula is the root, karma is the act, ashaya is the seed, drishta, drishta, seen, unseen, janma, birth or rebirth, vedanaya is to experience, to have the sensation of. So Maharshi Ved Vyasa says the vehicle of actions has its origin in afflictions and is experienced in visible and invisible births. By visible, invisible, he means those we are experiencing now and those that we are not yet aware of. So here the vehicle of good actions and bad actions is born of lust, avarice, forgetfulness, and anger. Its operation is felt in the visible as well as in the invisible birth. Of these, the vehicle of good actions, which is supplemented by intense energy in the shape of purificatory action, trance, and repetition of mantras, or which is accompanied by devotion to the Lord, that is Ishvara Pranidhana, the Devas, the seers, the possessors of great power, ripens into fruit at once. This happens in the same way in which, in the event of repeated evil done to men who are suffering the extreme misery of fear, disease, and helplessness, or to those who place confidence in the evildoer, or to those who are high-minded and perform tapas, the vehicle of evil action also ripens into fruit at once. Okay, and the example he gives is the youth Nandishvara passed out of human form and was transformed into an animal, as also Nahusha, the ruler of the gods, passed out of his own form and was transformed into an animal. Of the vehicles of action, that which culminates into the life of hell is said to be experienced in the invisible birth. As to those whose afflictions have been destroyed, the vehicle of actions is not experienced in the invisible births. Bit complex over here because basically what he's saying is, if I can summarize this at a very simple level, who am I to summarize Maharishi Ved Vyasa? What he's basically saying is, there is the actions that we do, good or bad, and that is also bad done to whom? Bad done to those who are suffering in misery, or bad done to those who are very good. You know, those afflictions, the root of our rebirth lies in the afflictions from which we act. So lust, avarice, forgetfulness, and anger. I think by forgetfulness, he means like omission, those we leave out, those we neglect. For instance, you can consider that neglecting duty, those kinds of things. Anger, extreme anger, resentment, bitterness. And those of us whose afflictions have been destroyed, the vehicle of action is not experienced in the invisible worlds. Swami Satyananda says the storehouse of karmas is the root cause of afflictions and to be experienced in the present and future births. So basically, the sutra is referencing the laws of karma and how it generates reincarnation. It is said that in the past, present, and future births, you can see the afflictions. It means that once karmas are caused by the afflictions, and with the cessation, once karmas are considered to be finished. But as so long as the afflictions are there, they keep on giving experiences in the present and in future births. This is because every individual has to undergo the effects of past karmas. If karmas are to be annihilated, it becomes essential to go back to their source, namely the fivefold afflictions. It's a two-way process because the karmas cause kleshas and the kleshas give rise to fresh karmas. So with the fresh karmas, one accumulates fresh samskaras, and then those samskaras once again strengthen the cause of afflictions. I think this sutra is very useful to understand just how enmeshed we are in the cycle of cause and effect. Because we have kleshas, we act on those kleshas and we'll give rise to fresh karmas. So, and because we act in this way, because we have the karmas, we give rise to fresh kleshas. So it is very essential to find a way to just cease. Many times, I think, just in our daily lives, to take a very simple example, we say, okay, we are angry at somebody because they did something to us. Yes, that may be correct in a factual, material, tangible, worldly way, but their actions are giving rise to our kleshas. Our kleshas are giving rise to our karmas. Our karmas will give rise to further kleshas. And thus you stay enmeshed in that cycle. At some point, we've got to rise above our feelings and say, you know what? Okay, maybe harm has been done to me, but I am not creating more karmas, and I am not functioning on the basis of kleshas, not for anybody else's sake, but my own sake, because I don't want to be stuck in this cycle of karma and klesha. Very simply put, because every action and reaction is generating samskaras for ourselves. So everything you're generating, every reaction, even in anger, thought, saying such and such person should be harmed for what they have done, is ultimately your own karma. It is coming out of your own klesha, and you are, sticking your feet into the quicksand as such. So at some point, the only way out is cessation, saying, I'm not reacting, I am not getting into this further, whatever the provocation. So Swami Vivekananda says the receptacle of works has its root in these pain-bearing obstructions, and the experience is in this visible life or in the unseen life. So by the receptacle of works is meant the sum total of samskaras. Whatever work we do, the mind is thrown into a wave, and after the work is finished, we think the wave has gone. It has not gone, it has only become fine, and by fine he means subtle, but it is still there. So when we try to remember the work, it comes up again and becomes a wave. So it was there, if not, there would not have been the memory. This every action, every thought, good or bad, just goes down and becomes subtle. It is stored in the subtle form. So both happy and unhappy thoughts are called pain-bearing obstructions, because according to the yogis, in the long run, they all bring pain. All happiness which comes from the senses will eventually bring pain. All enjoyment makes us thirst for more enjoyment, and that brings pain as a result. So there is no limit to man's desires. He goes on desiring, and when he comes to a point where desire cannot be fulfilled, the result is pain. Therefore, the yogis regard the sum total of the impressions, good or evil, as pain-bearing obstructions. They obstruct the way to freedom of the soul. It is the same with samskaras. The fine roots of all our works, they are the causes which will again bring effects either in this life or in the lives to come. In exceptional cases, when these samskaras are very strong, they bear fruit quickly. Exceptional acts of wickedness or goodness bring their fruits even in this life. The yogis hold that men who are able to acquire a tremendous power of good samskaras do not have to die, but even in this life can change their bodies into God bodies. So he talks a little bit more about this, and he says the physiological meaning of food is the assimilation of energy from the sun. The energy has reached the plant is eaten by animal by man. The science of it is that we take so much energy from the sun and make it part of ourselves. That being the case, why should there be only one way of assimilating energy? And the plant's way is not the same as ours, but all assimilate energy in some form or the other. So the yogis say that they are able to assimilate energy by the power of the mind alone. We are masters of our own body, our own energetic fields, and this is achieved by controlling our actions and the motivations on which we act. The sutra and its explanation is also one of the reasons why I say that the Buddha is a yogi, because this is essentially the explanation for dukkha, right? That whatever is generated, whether good or bad, eventually is a hook to keep you in samsara, which is the principle of dukkha. So BKS Iyengar says the accumulated imprints of past lives rooted in afflictions will be experienced in present and future lives. So whether good or bad, according to the degree of merit and demerit, imprints of residual impressions of one's actions generate future sorrows or pleasures, and they are experienced in either this life or in the lives to come. So, past actions are the seeds of affliction. They give rise to other actions necessitating future lives or reincarnation. This is known as karma. And afflictions and actions intermingle and interact, and the cycles of birth and death roll on. How can we avoid this? First is through the practices of Kriya Yoga, that is tapas, Swadhyaya, and Ishvara Pranidhana. Through this, we try to get rid of our residual karma. This is the accumulated fruit of actions, and in the form of visible or invisible or predetermined effect, we regard it as destiny or fate. And then, he explains in great detail, BKS Iyengar, the story of Nandi, who became the vehicle of Lord Shiva, Vishwamitra, who became, who was a warrior and became a sort of scholar and pandit, Urvashi, a nymph who became a creeper, Nahusa, the king of heaven, who became a snake. So there are all these stories in our folklore that basically convey this fact that, the actions at the end determine the birth. Osho says, whether fulfilled in the present or the future, karmic experiences have their roots in the 5 afflictions. As long as the roots remain, karma is fulfilled in rebirth through class, span of life, and types of experiences. So, man appears to be in the present, he says, but that is only an appearance. Man lives in the past. He passes through the present, but remains rooted in the past. So, everything that we are today, everything that our bodies are, is a combination of the actions of the past, whether of this life or of the previous life. If you're not inclined to consider past lives, then just consider this life. Your body and the state it is in, and the way you live and how you act and react is completely a consequence of your actions, even of the past in this life. So even the stress you carry in the body, the way you react, what you have learned, how you have conditioned yourself, to your state of health, your eating habits, your exercising habits, everything from the past, body, mind, spirit, contributes to who you are in this moment. So Osho says, if you think of the present, you will not find it at all, because the moment you find it, it has already passed. And just a moment before, when you had not found it, it was in the future. So, but for a Buddha consciousness, for an awakened being, only the present is existential. For ordinary consciousness, unaware, sleepy, the past and future are real, and the present is unreal. So, why do we live in the past? Because the mind is nothing but an accumulation of the past. The mind is memory. All you have done, all you have dreamed, all you have wanted to do and could not do is in your mind, and the mind is a dead entity. If you look through the mind, you will never find the present. So everybody gathers dust, and not only do you gather it, you cling to it. But the past is gone. So essentially, what he's saying is, the way to overcome the cycle of klesha and karma is to be fixed in the present moment alone. Barbara Stoller-Miller says subliminal intention formed in actions rooted in the forces of corruption is realized in present or potential births. And according to Patanjali, subliminal intentions, that is ashya, bear fruit both in our current lifetime and in potential rebirths, janma vedaniya. Forces of corruption create a ground on which the impressions of the world take hold to form subliminal impressions. Vyasa suggests that the circuitous talk of such intentions results in rebirth in various states. So basically, depending upon the actions that and the afflictions that they are born out of. So we have an affliction, we take an action as a result in reaction that plants the seed in consciousness of the rebirth. And the state of that rebirth, the elevation or the fall, the state of despair, the state of joy, depends on whether our actions are good or bad and who they impact and how they impact them. And perhaps it is more complex than it is being explained here also, because the law of karma is extremely, extremely complex. It's not so simple. So there's a lot we don't understand. But for our practical purposes as practitioners of yoga, to stay in the present moment, to be fixed in the present, and to understand that everything that we are in the present is a result of the past, and therefore to use this present moment in such a way that it does not sow further seeds for the future. I hope this was useful to you. Thank you so much for listening. Come back tomorrow for Sutra number 13.